William, thank you for taking time to speak to us. You are a new millennium player and you find yourself in a generation of players that are really trying to push the agenda for Zambian football. What would be the best way to start your story?
A new millennium player, describes it perfectly. So I don't know what you want to know.
Let's start from your formative years. Let's talk about Chiparamba and EduSport. That's where you started honing your skills. But first, as a kid, many options you could have chosen in life. But why football?
I believe football was an inborn thing. I can recall back before even I started my education. I played football I can say maybe 7 hours a day, like from the morning or come back to lunch and go back to play Chimpombwa. So I believe football was part of me from the time that I was born.
Okay, now let's fast forward a little bit. You also spent time at Chiparamba, of course.
Yeah.
But let's talk about your time playing Super League football in Zambia. You joined Lusaka Dynamos, and a team that loved young, youthful players. How did the move first happen?
The way it all happened is, this time around I was playing for EduSport, had moved from Chiparamba. So EduSport, like Chiparamba, was or is a football academy that usually, is serious with the development of football. So I remember most of the times we went to play a big club, premier clubs, friendly games with premier clubs. So I can recall this day that EduSport came to play Lusaka Dynamos, and Mr. Anif Adams was there. So we played, and like all the time, we had a lot of skills to showcase. When you go to play these clubs, when you are a young player, you play a Premier League club, you are aspiring to be in these teams. So we were there, and we did our best, and me and the other three guys were approached by Mr. Anif Adams and said, I want you guys to come and start training with me.
Now, let's also talk about your formative years at Chiparamba and EduSport. What positions did you play? Because many a time players play many positions, but the world got to know you as a central midfielder, to say the least.
So at Chiparamba, when I was just starting, of course, the first attempt when I decided to start playing, when I made a decision that I'm going to start playing serious football, I was a midfielder, of course. This was the first but when I was at Chiparamba, some coaches there decided that thought that I was going to be a good central defender. So at Chiparamba I played most of my under 12, under 14, under 16 in the center, like a riblo, because back then we used to play the one that takes free balls because I could control the game well. When I can control the passing of the game, so they used me as a libero. So at Chiparamba I played, and then when I went at EduSport I played right and left back. So all my junior years I was playing as a defender. But the day that I decided to join Lusaka Dynamos, I said to them that I'm a midfielder, and that's where the whole story started now.
Were you somewhat blocked? You were forced to play defense, so that was your position of choice?
I enjoyed it because for me I felt like what is important for me was to be in the field of play. If the coach gives me an opportunity to play, if he asked me to play striker, I was going to play because I am young. I felt like I'm not going to limit myself, to give myself a position. So I said, since I'm just developing, I will let myself be at any position that the coach asks me to play, as long as I am in the first 11.
Ball-hungry player.
Yes.
Ball-hungry player. So, you go to Lusaka Dynamos and you link up with Winston Mumba. He's your coach there. How does he want to use you when you arrive?
Winston Mumba, first question was, we saw you play in defense at the academy. Which position are you comfortable with? I said, I am comfortable playing in the middle. And which part of the middle? I said, I am offensive midfielder, which is more like an attacking midfielder.
Number 8.
Yes. And the coach said, okay, we let you, we'll see. If you qualify, then we'll let you play. If not, we'll nurture you to be a left back or a right back.
So, how did Lusaka Dynamos want to play their football? You have gotten your position, they want you to play central midfield.
Yeah, so the advantage I had at Lusaka Dynamos that this club also was like the perfect transitional club that I could move to. Why? Because all the academies that I played for, Edusport and Chiparamba, played possession football. It didn't matter how much pressure you have. The coaches, I can mention the Albert Impande, Noah Piri, these guys, Dixon Chama, these guys always advise their players to play, to be comfortable with the ball, because they knew that it's the only way that a young player can develop is to be, I can say, to be in love with the ball. So Lusaka Dynamos also had the same philosophy. Mr. Adam said, here we play football. So it was easy for me to gel in. It was very easy for me.
Now, a lot of people say like putting the ball down pretty hard, and the pitches are not the greatest. Let's be honest. How hard was it to really play on the ground with bumpy pitches?
So I think I will talk for myself. For me, first thing first is to accept the reality. I accepted the reality about the football pitches that we have in Zambia. So when I accepted the reality, it was much easier to adapt. So in this case, it was my focus was not to think about how bumpy the pitch was. My focus was to think at how best I can take control of the ball in these bumpy pitches.
But was it an issue? Okay, putting the ball down, you said you played like that when you're young, but I'm sure as you grew up, you saw other teams that played differently. Did that play in your mind in any way?
No, you know, when you come from a background that has taught you how to play football, it is like they have programmed you to do that. So meaning that it will take more years to change that program and to start believing in something else. So I believed in that football is to be played on the ground, and the bumpy pitch was not an obstacle. Bumpy, because it was not an issue in my mind. My issue was always to, no matter the case, I must put the ball on the ground and play the lovely game of football.
Okay, so you went on to work with Phyton Simkonda as well at Lusaka Dynamos. Just tell us your experience. How would you describe Big Phy and how he wanted you to play and his teams to play?
First of all, Big Phy, may he so rest in peace. I think this man was a brilliant coach in such a way that he will prepare you guys throughout the week, and the day of the game, he will let you. He was a very quiet coach or a manager, so to say. He will let you do your thing. He will wait until the halftime to come and add or tell you more whatever he thought or whatever he thinks you should go about the game.
Never lost his temper, because others say that from his Nkana days, He was a fiery character sometimes, and him as a coach now, you are saying totally calm, never raised his voice at anybody?
No. I can testify that during his time at LOD, so I'm not going to talk about him. I'm not going to say the things that maybe I've heard or someone has told me about him. I'll only say the things that I saw about him. He was a very calm coach for Lusaka Dynamos at this time of the year, and that's why I believe this year LOD performed really well. We went on to win the BP Top 8. I think this was the last edition of the BP Top 8. We went on to win this year.
Yeah, so Joshua Nkoma came and joined in, but you had players like Hichani Himonde as well.
Philemon Chipeta
as well.
Hichani Monde, we came from the same academy, from the same setup. So a lot of big players. Hobson Kalengu. Hobson had left, but we had Thomas Mulendema who played with Hichani. These guys were very solid together. Well, for me, they were like the best partnership this year in the league. Yeah.
Let's talk about HH, and yourself and HH literally grow up together, like blood brothers, as it were. In terms of your development, what role did Hichani play? Of course, different position, and of course, you'd play back in defense in your formative years, and you played together. Just how was it, generally playing with Hichani and somebody you had grown up with? How important was that?
Again, it played to my, it played to my advantage in such a way that the same guy that I played with at academy is the same guy that is in defense at the Premier League team. I'm playing with him. I'm playing with this guy. So almost all the time, even when the games are difficult, this is the guy that will look for me and try to pass the ball, to let the ball pass through me so we can launch the attacks. So I think he has played a very big role in my career in such a way that he has, like I encouraged him, he encouraged me, and thankfully we've always found together, family, friends, mother, the parents knew each other, and it was like a brotherly thing. So it played out very well for the both of us.
Okay, let's talk about the 2007 World Cup, shall we? So George Rwandamina qualifies the team to the World Cup in Canada. Cool thing to achieve at a very tender age. You're going to the World Cup. How do you best remember that journey to the World Cup?
First thing is, it was for me a very exciting moment. To know that also I was under the guidance of I consider like one of the best coaches in Zambia, together with Mr. Oswald Mtapa, was his assistant, and Mr. Suwale. So Mr. Suwale, these guys were like father figures to the team. So the experience altogether was an exciting experience. It was at the best time of my career, because this is like at a peak from the youth, and like the first season in the second season in the Premier League. Now everybody start to know you. You start to put stamps in. You start to make the name for yourself. So it's like everywhere now, everybody can remember your name, you know. So it was an exciting moment.
Let's talk about your development as a player. So you move from Chiparamba, you go to Lusaka Dynamos, and boom, international football. How do you describe the different levels, and what did they bring and demand out of you?
So the way, you know, it all started, and the way I came about to reach the level. First thing first, I still am a dreamer, you know, like even before I played for the under-20s, even before I played for Lusaka Dynamos. So I will confess that I spoke about these things like I am already in these places. So for me, it was like when you have a goal, you know, like when you are determined to be at a certain place in life, the only thing that is in your mind is that place. And for me, it was like I'm already in the under-20 because this time I'm young. I'm not even thinking about the senior team because I know football is goes with you know, there are stages, there are steps that you have to climb. So for me, I'm already in the Premier League. Even when I was at the academy, I am at LOD. I'm already at a junior. I'm already at under-20 in my mind. So when the things are already in your mind, you know what you demand from yourself.
Who would you say put a lot of pressure on you? Like, William, I need you to do this, do this, do this. Who pushed you the most?
I told myself to get whatever I was thinking about in my mind. I was like the first person who pushed myself. Of course, there are many people, because there are many. You know, Noah Piri, you know, Chiparamba, Dixon Chama, Albert Impande, all these people, you know, they played a bigger role. But I think the first person was myself because I had a vision. So I knew that to attain all those things, I must work very hard. And Mandao Bridge can be my witness. If it speaks, it will tell you a part of my story because I used it. I used it many times to enhance my physical ability.
Okay, now you arrive at the World Cup, and then of course you went on to play against us like Juan Mata, Edison Cavani, and the like. What did that tell you? Of course we went past the group, but what did that tell you after getting a couple of victories and a lot of confidence? Did you actually feel that, well, as you were going, that these opponents are actually coming from very good footballing countries and it might be very difficult for us to get our objectives done here?
One thing is that we knew, you know, because our coaches and our dignitaries also, you know, they told us about the teams that were going to be playing. But the number one thing that was always discussed by our coach George Rwandamina was that we have to change the face of Zambian football. And you know, just that one statement tells you something as a player. It gives you extra energy, you know.
What needed to change? Was the pressure of the team failing to qualify in 2004 like over your head somehow? Yeah, we went back in 2006 but got knocked out in the group stage, and then 2007 you're being told you need to change the face of Zambian football. What did that mean at the time?
That time it meant that we, from our group, and of course other exceptional good players who are not in our group, it means that this is where the team that will change like the face of Zambian football will come from. And this was this was the message from the beginning of the qualification, the Africa Cup in Brazzaville and COSAFA. From the beginning of all the preparations of this under-20 group, the message was that we have to change the face of Zambian football. And like that, it's, as a player, when you hear your bosses tell you that you have to change the face of Zambian football, now this is a motivation that comes through within each and every individual to come and show up, be present in every game that you play.
Let's talk about the game approach and how George Lwandamina wanted you to play. Of course, up front, he liked to play with Roger Kola and Emmanuel Mayuka. You had Clifford Mlenga on the left, you had Fuayo, you had yourself and Justin in the middle, and of course, Dennis Banda at the back. How did he want you to play?
You know, the coach always said that system is is there just to show the picture of how we are going to stand, but realistically or in reality, when you go in the field of play, anything can happen, you know. So the philosophy was like it is doing Zesco and other teams that we've seen him coach, is that you need to play. He wants you to play. He always wants you to play. And I remember the first game he used me center back, though we had some natural defenders in the team. He wanted me to play center back because he thought that it would be good to start always to start a game because his philosophy demands that we start a game from behind. So he wanted me to play at the back with Dennis Banda. So his approach was always, and I think it is the same, that always he wants his players to be comfortable on the ball, play, you know, find solutions, you know, be creative. He wants to see his midfielder make runs and this and that.
And Stopila was playing ahead of you.
Stopila
was playing 6 and you are playing in central defense.
I was attacking. In fact, he was an attacking midfielder this time. And the coach, you know, slowly, you know, start to bring him back, and then finally someone else said, you are a defender. But Stopila was playing ahead of me.
Was that a bit of a shocker growing up? That I prefer to be playing at the barest minimum 6 or 8 because I'm a central midfielder, but here goes central defense.
Like I mentioned, but in the before the coach even decided to play me there, you know, he sat with me. He asked me, okay, I feel like I want you to play central defense, and like I mentioned to you earlier, for William, if he's in the starting 11 at this, because he still thinks he's at a developmental stage, he is going to play if the coach asks him. So he asked me, and I said yes, because
was he worried about your height? It's because I'm sure it was a bit daunting to see taller opponents, crosses into the box, crosses into the box and all manner of threats. And you're not the tallest of players, but yes, you had decent leap, but that was the position you're going to play.
Zite, if the coach is confident that you can do the job at any particular position, then who are you not to be confident in yourself?
You didn't think about that?
No. For me, always in my mind is that I must be in the starting 11. So when you are young and you are hungry to play football, you don't think about, but no, this is not my, I'm not going to be at my best position, to give out the best, because this is not my position. You are just going to think, okay, I'll be in the starting 11 and I'll do whatever this position demands me to do, and if possible, I'll do extra things to show that I'm capable of doing other things, you know.
Yeah, George Chicken Lwandamina. And him playing out from the back sits in very well with your development. Let's fast forward it a bit. Of course, now you're beginning to mature, but you now had a very short stint at Zesco United after the World Cup. When you came back, what was the feeling?
I went to Zesco actually after the Chan.
After
Chan, yes. After the Chan Local Africa Cup, yeah.
Yes. Now, let's just move it forward a little bit in terms of your development and what the expectation was around what the coaches wanted you to play. What was George Lwandamina's reaction after we were knocked out of the World Cup?
No, he said, you boys you have done your part. You worked really hard. You've reached. I think this time we had passed the level that the previous team under 20 squad that had gone to the World Cup failed to. Yeah, we had gone past this stage, so it was like also a grade going forward as a nation. So we, you know, the coach said we did everything that we could have done, and I think all the players also enjoyed the whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So spectacular performance by Zambian standards. But let's move on to the year 2008, Africa Cup of Nations. You are making your debut there. Patrick Peary is the man that takes you there. Was that the first time working with big powers, they would call it?
Yeah, it was my first time.
Let's talk about it. How would you describe it at that time in your career?
Yeah, so this time we are young players, you know, just graduated from the under 23. It was me, Emmanuel, Hichani, and Clifford. I think we were the players that came from the junior setup, and the rest of the players are the players that we know we already found in the team. So I think this time Big Pa was like was a father figure for all the young players. You know, he was a man that he encouraged us. You know, he would mention to he would tell us that, you know, for you guys is no pressure. You know, for you guys is the experience. We have you are at this Africa Cup because we want you to gain experience. We want you to learn from the senior players that you have found. We want you to grow mentally, you know, and physically, you know. So he was a father figure for all of us.
Let's talk about that one. Back home, there's this big debate about Elijah Turner and Davis Nkausu needing to join up the team. That did not happen. Did it seep through that, Turner and Nkausu are coming, so yeah, we'll be better in that regard? Was it something that was a big deal from inside camp?
No, I don't think it was very big. Perhaps maybe it was. Perhaps it was. You know, it was for the technical bench, but I don't think for the players it was, because every player, you know, when he's at this stage of the game, wants to play, wants to showcase, you know, and the absence of one is an opportunity for one. So I could see that most of the guys that you know were in these positions were also stepping up. They had stepped up their game, and you know, you could see that regardless of the things that happened, you could see that we still have the team that is capable, you know.
Was it a scary thing? They said that the Chipolopolo jersey is something special, very heavy. Forget about the under 20 kit that you wore. Now you're talking about the Chipolopolo senior jersey. And yeah, you found people like Chris Katongo in there, Collins Mbesuma. How was the mood in camp? Was it scary, in all honesty, that, well, this is it? This is what the whole nation comes to a standstill for, the Chipolopolo?
You know, the surprising thing is throughout the years, you know, you hear players or people telling you that, oh, you know, other players in the clubs, at the national team, when you go there, they will intimidate you. You know, they will stamp on you so that you don't express yourself in any way. But surprisingly, I remember the first person that received me at the senior team, shared the room with, was Felix. And this time Felix is at the peak. He's like the best, one of the best midfielders we have in the team. So I remember the first words I never forget. Say, young man, welcome. And you know, I have big respect for this guy, Felix Katongo. Why? Because the words that he uttered, he said to me, welcome. This is now also your opportunity to show the country that you also exist as a Zambian football player. So don't listen to anyone. Don't listen to any intimidating words or anything. Just go there and express yourself.
And they could come. Was your heart bumping ever so faster? You walk into the Chipolopolo, you look left, you look right. Okay.
Yeah, it's normal for every player. Sometimes in the beginning you are nervous, and but you know, if you have people like the way Felix, and I can say many of them, Kakonje, Kadiliro, you know, Jacob Mlenga, these guys, James Chamanga, you know, Chintu Kampamba. No, these guys, you know, they are the best senior players that I've played with. I can testify to that. Why? Because I never saw them one day intimidating any young player. You know?
Even when I know things are not going right and someone needs to get upset, they would get upset with each other at senior level.
Yes,
and
but
never...
not the young players. Not the young players. Of course, if you do something wrong, they will be on you
in a soft way.
Yes, because they want you to grow to be nurtured in a good way, to grow up in a good way. Also, I forgot to mention Joseph Msonda. Also, these guys, because I think he was like the seniorest of all the players. Joseph, Chintu, and everybody else followed. Christopher, you know. But these guys were the best senior players that I've worked with.
So, comfortable upbringing. Let's talk about your debut, shall we? Rather a game, I don't know whether it's a game to remember or to forget. You come on against Cameroon, 5-1 it finished.
Yes.
And then, in that game, you had players like Joseph Desire Job, Jeremy Njitap, Samuel Etofields, Rigo Betsong, star-studded Cameroonian side that really wants to beat you, and yeah, they really beat us. 5-1, but you come on in the later stages of the match. I'm sure you were warming up, and you told William you're coming on. What did Big Pass say to you?
Because I'm coming on, and I think we are already 4 goals, we are 4-1 down already. And you know, the coach, Big Pass, say, come, just go there and express yourself. We know that there's nothing you can do to change the result, but because this is the time we brought you to this tournament, because we are nurturing you, we want you to grow physically and mentally, so go. And
which position does he give you?
Attacking midfielder.
How did it feel now against this star-studded Cameroonian side? You went in there, and would you say the team had collapsed by the time you were going in there? We had given up. We were looking forward to the game to end.
For me, personally, I was a bit nervous. Like, now I'm on touchline, because when they call me to come in, I'm not sure if they're calling me to come in or they're calling me to sit down. So I reached the bench, they told me you are going in. So I'm on the touchline, and I'm like, I'm going to play against Njitapu and Makun, you know. Njitapu, I'm going to play against these guys. Now the reality starts to creep in, you know, like, oh, now it's happening, you know. But, you know, coming from a background where you love to play football, now after when I step in the field of play, I'm excited. Okay, it is my time also to make a name for myself, or just to, you know, to do the best I can do for the country, you know.
At the end, would exciting there or bitterly disappointing there at the office, or at that time you didn't understand how painful it was to lose because you were young, so to speak?
Yeah, at that level I didn't understand how, because I was never at the Africa Cup, like the first Africa Cup, I didn't really understand that how painful it was to lose like that, you know.
Or the pressure associated with the jersey?
No. I can confess that I didn't, there was no such kind of mental pressure that, oh, now everybody's watching at home. No, for me it was, it is me just here at Africa Cup, and it is me having an opportunity to play, and it went like that.
We dropped out the first round, and up next for you was coming back home. Was it delight, disappointment? And you know the Zambian public was not too happy with that first round showing.
Yes, and after, now when I'm back, I saw how this is when I'm learning that how disappointing it was, you know, to go out of the tournament at this stage, because I could see now the media, the people, you know, speak. Now, from this moment, I start to learn that, oh, this is a big deal for the country, you know. This is a real deal. To be at the Africa Cup is a real deal for Mother Zambia. So from this moment onwards, you start to nurture yourself to grow mentally in the approach of this kind of tournaments.
Let's talk about 2008. That's a year after the Africa Cup. Patrick Piri is relieved of his duties by the Football Association of Zambia. And then, of course, on the other side, the leadership is taken by Kalusha Walia. And with the coming of Kalusha Walia sees the arrival of Hervé Renard. Little known, was assistant coach in Ghana. Let's talk about your first meeting with the French Fox after he came to Zambia.
I remember, I think the first, I remember. The first meeting, we went in camp, and I think it was just a local preparation, the local players' preparation. There was a friendly game that FASA, the FA had organized against the Congo in Congo Kinshasa, Congo Dihara in Kinshasa. So the first camp, I remember still a local guy with Mr. Renard was, you know, it's like he doesn't know everybody. You know, he's just trying every player that, you know, the players that he gives him, the FA had submitted, and, you know, with time also he started to watch games and also bring in new players that he has seen. So I think the first camps with Rena were okay, because every player is trying to impress. So they are very competitive, they are okay. But for me, I'm confident because I'm from playing the Africa Cup.
Could it be, and at that point, Renard is the first foreign coach you are playing under? Yes. I'm thinking. And now they say that every time a foreign-based player or a foreign-based coach actually comes, Zambian players run their socks off. Like, you don't need to tell them that they'll get to work instantly. Would you say that is necessarily true, or just the pleasure of playing for the national team and seeing Renard for the first time was like, still need to work and get into the team?
Yes, it is. I think it is like the pleasure to play in the senior team, to play in the national team, to that thought that one have, that I think it is my time to have a real shot at this now. You know, like, okay, I played at Africa Cup, I played one game, and now you have another coach in charge, not necessarily thinking that you have a foreign coach, but just to have a thought that you have another coach in charge. You know, this It's like a motivation. Like, okay, is another coach. Obviously, is a new philosophy. Obviously, he's looking for something. So when you are training for this person, you are doing drills with this coach, you are giving everything like any other player, you know.
How did Renard want you to play? As in the first time you speak, and of course you become one of the most important players in that CHAN 2009 squad. But what was Renard's philosophy about how he wanted Zambia to play in 2009?
So with Renard, for him always it was his tactical approach was always the team must always be behind the ball, and he always mentioned this: Zambia is blessed with a lot of talent. I can recall even now, even 2 years, he always says this. When he passes a comment, he says Zambia is blessed with abundance of talent, but the talent that is lazy, he will add that element, an element of laziness. So for him, it was always, in his tactical approach, it was, we must always, when we lose the ball, we must always run behind the ball. For him, it was always like that, because he said, going forward, there's little I can teach you, because we have the quality that can do, the quality that can dribble, the quality that can head Jacob James, the quality that can run faster. We had power, Collins, we have all kind of elements, you know, like the ingredients, everything that when you bring it together, it gives you the best attacking tactic or attacking movement, you know.
Was that hard to understand? How many times did you need to repeat this theme about getting back behind the ball?
Every time he takes charge, usually you take charge of the trainings on Thursdays or Wednesdays or Thursdays, and every time he takes charge of a tactical training, this is his due, nothing else.
Defensively?
All the time, not really necessarily defensively, but like the up where he reminds each and every player that we lose the ball, we must be behind the ball. You are not behind the ball, it's punishment. I remember Emmanuel always is, you know, you have strikers,
yes,
mostly lazy. He was always on Emmanuel,
Mayuka,
always on Collins, always on Jacob. He likes to do that, so it was much easier. James did that easier, but for the central, the attackers that, you know, like Emmanuel and Collins, always on them because, you know, a little bit lazy, but of course they gave the best for the team, yeah?
Would you say generally the team, a couple of players you've singled out were very good at it, but it was a totally different culture that probably needed a lot of time, where people whispering quietly after training and say, what is this guy doing? Is he sure? Should we still follow? Oh, well, he's the coach. What was the feeling?
No, you know, the good part is that he had a lot of drills, training drills that, you know, we always enjoy. And we did this maybe just once a week or twice a week. And the rest of the training drills are like enjoyable, you know. So there was not so much fuss about what are we doing, but what kind of football is this? No.
Even from the senior players, it was...
Yeah, because everyone knew that to win a game, we must be behind the ball. You know, it is something, it is not something new. It's just because Renard put an emphasis on this. It was, for me, it is something that I think every team wants to do. They want to be behind the ball. Every team wants to be behind the ball.
Tell me something. Renard used to pride himself. I remember watching him on TV and said, you ask my players, I'm really, really tough. How tough was
Yeah, yeah.
Heavy?
That is the real truth. He was, I think, he was very, very tough. One of the toughest coaches that I've ever worked with. But I would say tough in a sense that he wants the best out of you. Not tough in a sense that he gets you, like frustrates you. No, he was tough. Sometimes he would go beyond the line, normal, because he's a winner. He wants to win. He just wants the best out of you.
Did players fear him when he comes? Oh, here comes Rena. Everyone switch on attention.
Yeah, when he comes, everyone switch on. So it was automatic.
It was automatic.
Yes.
So it was somehow like boot camp, like some military instructor of sorts.
Yeah. He was, discipline. Many things. I would say I learned from Rena is that the discipline aspect of the game was his number one emphasis. Discipline, quality. He knew, he said, he would preach to us, Zambia, talented, skillful, everything. You have everything. But this, I'm going to keep saying, discipline, positional discipline, discipline out of the field. He preached about this. Time, we pay for late coming for dinner. We pay for late coming for breakfast, for lunch. You pay. Understand? Small things that, in the end, in the process, we thought, this guy is too much. But in the end, everyone said, this is what has helped the team to be this team, what it is now,
All right, so you are the guy wearing the number 10 at the 2009 Chan. And we finished third. But what was the biggest lesson about that? Because you've given a breakdown of Heavy Rena, you snooze, you lose type of profile. What would you say was the biggest lesson about the Chan and us finishing third?
For the lesson for
your career?
Individually, I think the bigger lesson now was I had the real feel of the Chan, though Chan is not the main Africa Cup, but for me, in my mind, when I was at Chan, for me, that was the main Africa Cup.
Less pressure?
I did not categorize it as a local Africa Cup. I looked at it as a main Africa Cup. So why I looked at it like that? Because I wanted to get the real mental, physical feeling about the cup itself. So the biggest lesson was just from there. I think I built a character, or the tournament built a character in me that now knew what an Africa Cup is all about. Because I think if you remember the first game we played the host nation, Ivory Coast, and this game was packed.
Given was on fire.
This game was packed. We are in a briefing, 10 hours. Our hotel is close to the stadium. And the people, 10 hours, are flocking to the stadium with the noise. And we are in the briefing talking about the same game that we are going to play. You can imagine now in the briefing you're thinking, so these people, they'll be watching us. This president is there. The president of Ivory Coast is there. And the hosting nation, you're playing the hosting nation. So, I got a real feeling of what an Africa Cup is all about.
How were Heavy Rena's pre-match meetings?
Mostly Renard didn't speak much. He was in most cases just encouraging. Just you only talk about who is watching, who is counting on you. He spoke about those things. The guy that did the most of the things is Patrice, because he's a guy who was almost all the time on the ground. The set pieces, with who to do this, who to do that. that Renard always was like doing a mentor kind of thing, you know, before most of the games.
So the detailed tactics was something that Patrice would definitely handle.
Yes.
And it came to things like corner kicks, how for and against, free kicks, how you line up, how you take them, what to do, where do you stand. Had you ever seen such kind of detail when playing football?
This time I'm still a local player, so
you had never seen that.
It's a new thing, you know, and it's a new thing that is refreshing to my mind. Why? Because just before, moments before you go into a football game, they put everything, you know, on the board for every responsibility. You know, every of your responsibilities on the board. They talk about it and they ask you to look at it. So it was something refreshing in such a way that you go with a picture or clear picture of what you're supposed to do, how the coach wants you to move, and how, you know, the set piece is the kind usually you have three kinds, you know, the short, the far, and the near, you know. So you have the clear picture already. You go in the field, you know, even at when the game is difficult, when it's hot, you know, when they shout a number, you remember, you know, because they put it in picture for you, and they have put it in verbal for you, you know. So it was something refreshing.
How did it feel coming back from national team duty and getting back to the club, local club, and yeah, your teammates at the club are also probably waiting for you to say, hey, William, what did you learn? Or was it, when you shared your experiences at the team, what was the reaction of the people you share that information with?
No, most of the guys, you know, I would recall, most of them, when you talk to them about what happened, how you played, and you know, the things after the football, you know, the small things, small details, you know.
Like the ice bath?
Yeah, all the small, you know, most of the guys that I spoke to, you know, will be inspired. They'll want to have the same experience. And for me, it was important to share these things because it gave your teammates at the club, you know, the motivation to also find themselves in the national team.